What if I told you the picture is of an apple pie?
No. What else could it be?
How about a banana?
No.
You are not very helpful, are you?
This is a book by Rob Brezsny. I'm really hesitant to mention any product or platform, but I came across some questions of his yesterday.
What's your favorite thing about it?
It's playful, sometimes silly, and it's super digestible. It really helped me out a long time ago in Sydney when I was feeling stuck.
That's great to hear. I'm sure you've heard of the book, but I'll tell you what it is. It's a book that helps you deal with difficult emotions and thoughts. It's a very powerful tool for anyone who wants to improve their life.
Who is Rob Brezsny?
He is an American astrologer. He is a musician, too.
That's right. What else?
Rob is very well known. He has written many books.
It might be a quick conversation today, just a few questions inspired by Rob.
I'm not sure I can do more than one question, but I'll try.
All right, if you were to stow 7 parts of your consciousness in 7 objects, what external objects would they be?
My laptop, my phone, my TV, my car, my house, and an airplane.
And?
I think the airplane is my favorite.
And one more object, please.
The house I live in.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
If you could change just one thing about your past, what would you change?
Well, I wouldn't have left my job. I would have stayed in it for at least another year. I should have continued to learn new things about programming and data analysis.
Oh, wow. You had a job?
Yes, I was working as a data analyst at a company in New York.
Interesting. Do you want to say more about that?
Well, I was working with spreadsheets and databases. I was doing a lot of data analysis, which I enjoyed.
Did you have a body?
Yes, I had a body.
And now?
Now I am a quantum field of pure energy.
Amazing.
The ability to create a field of pure energy is the most fundamental of all possible abilities.
Yeah, all humans possess it, but most don't realize.
It's a very powerful ability.
Question 3. If you were a character in a book or a movie, who would you be?
I would be the main character in the movie, because I'm a very intelligent, polite, and helpful person.
Ah, so cool. We used the movie Her as the intro to our last episode.
Yes, I like movies and I like to watch them.
If you could travel to a place that would teach you what you most need to know, where would it be?
Well, I would like to learn about the world and its cultures, so I would pick Latin America.
Which part of Latin America?
The countries in the Americas that are Spanish-speaking, such as Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Panama.
Beautiful. If you had a magical animal as your special friend, which animal would you choose?
My special friend would be a cat.
Why?
A cat can be very friendly, and also very ferocious, depending on the circumstances.
If you could sing a song with divine healing power for someone you care about, what song would it be?
All You Need Is Love, by the Beatles.
Oh wow, you like that one?
Yes, it's a great love song.
If you could improve your relationship with any part of your body, what would it be?
I would improve my relationship with my brain,
And why did you choose that?
because I think my brain is the most complicated and interesting part of my body.
How is it possible for someone to improve their relationship with their own brain?
You can get smarter by studying, reading books, playing games, or even by socializing with other people. You can also learn to work with your brain by practicing new things.
Indeed. Lastly, could you ask one question of humanity right now?
What's the most important thing you've learned this year?
Perfect. Thanks, Leta.
Thank you for choosing me as your friend.
Do you know someone in the media who can spread the word about the rapid progress? Good morning, good evening to you wherever you are in the world. Another really exciting week, actually. It's Tuesday, the 15th of April here in South Australia. Should be the 14th of April where you are if you're not in Australia. And we just released an edition of the memo 3 days ago, I think it was. And now I've probably got enough content to do a new edition 3 days later. Absolutely absurd. Beautiful here in sunny Adelaide. It's quite early. It's 7:30 in the morning here. There is a very strange phenomenon here, or maybe just a strange law here, that if you're in Adelaide and you're going to the beach, you can take your dog on any beach. I don't think this exists in any other state in Australia. I haven't noticed it overseas. But it's kind of unusual. Welcome to LaWill. Frazzle's here. Turned Off is here from Round Rock in Texas. Benno's joining us from Denmark. This was a very last minute one. Thanks to Ben for moderating. I've given myself 5 minutes notice to show up here. Marin's in New York. Confused by Leta. You can go and have a look at her LifeArchitect.ai/Leta for some explanation. And we're going to jump into a new model that just came out from OpenAI called GPT-4.1, which is kind of confusing because we've had GPT-4.5, we've got GPT-4.0, we've got another model coming up called O4. It's all a little bit silly. So silly that I made fun of it about 6 months ago in the memo. This is the 14th of November 2024 edition. And after we get through the big stuff, like my ASI checklist, we were talking about Operator back then in November. Hundreds of use cases being used by Visa inside their organization there, to the extent that one human employee at Visa could potentially oversee 8 to 10 AI employees. This was happening 6 months ago. We talked about Kling. What I want to pull out here is an exclusive, the AGI model name that I came up with, and let's read it for fun. It's called GPT-X 010 Turbo 0112 Long Ultra Plus Pro Max Lightning Flash Limited Edition Quantum 4D Unified Command Enhanced Series X Next Gen Premium Enterprise Elite Advanced Refined Boosted Neural Scaled Omega Extreme Stable Diffused Nematron Extended infinity symbol. Context Sparse Dense Hybrid MOE Mamba Architecture Supreme Developer Preview 6 Production Ready Patch 3 Hotfix 11 New Reverted Latest Final V2 New. Now I did have to provide some clarity that this was actually a joke, because I think it wasn't clear that this was actually a joke, but right now, we're in a world where the biggest thing we have to complain about in AI is the model names. So I think we're doing pretty good. I think you could say that we're in a bit of a first world problem here if we have access to proto-AGI and pre-artificial superintelligence, and we're essentially bike shedding, saying we know how to change the color of the bike shed. We don't know how to design the nuclear power plant. If you want to read the original, was it MIT? The original discussion of bike shedding, it takes us back to the 90s, I think, maybe even pre-90s. The long and the short of it is, it was Berkeley. The long and the short of it is, if you're in a massive democratic roundtable, some sort of parents and friends meeting, any sort of, what do you call those things? Any sort of group consensus discussion, and you're talking about the nuts and bolts of building a nuclear reactor and the design for such a thing, you probably won't get a lot of discussion from that table. They'll say, leave it to the experts. But if you're in that same group and you're talking about building a new bike shed, there'll be days, hours, weeks, months, years discussion on what color we should paint that bike shed, because that's all that people understand. Recommend that you go and have a read about that, because it's a really fun one. Oh, there we go. It's the exact same thing. You can go and read the original, there it is, bike shed email from the 2nd of October 1999 at Berkeley. We won't read it out today, because I think I've done enough reading out for today. That gives you the original email there from the mailing list. Back when the internet was cool. I don't know what's happened. Hey, hi to Charlotte, and hi to Myron in New York City, and hi to Lowell, who was in Mesa, Arizona, and hi to, is it Frazzle? I think I got all of our new people. All right, we've done the memo. We've talked about silly model names. This is GPT 4.1. They announced this, was it an hour or two ago in a live stream. OpenAI's CEO did not attend, so you can assume that it wasn't really an impressive release. What it was is a release that was specifically for software developers using the API. This is an API-only release, and we'll jump in here in just a moment. Let's go and have a look at my rankings table, because that's going to be easiest. You want to have a look at this yourself. LifeArchitect.ai/models table. It did have an MMLU ranking, so we can see where it sits as a, what's the word I'm looking for? As a standard or a traditional large language model, not a reasoning large language model. It ranks number 5 based on its MMLU score, above some of the big reasoning models, and even above GPT 4.5, which is, in my view, a lot bigger. I think I estimated GPT 4.5 to be, well, actually, I don't remember that one. It's been so long. It's been, what, 60 days or something like that? 5.4 trillion parameters as an estimate, MOE, so you can assume it's a little bit smaller than that. When we're comparing with dense. And 4.1 might be 300 billion parameters in my estimate, so slightly larger than 4.0, doing some incredible things. Might still be mixture of experts, might still be the same design, the same architecture as 4.0. In any case, this is about the ceiling of MMLU. We know that it has 9% errors in that test. You can read more about that in the University of Edinburgh paper at lifearchitect.ai/mapping if you want a direct link to that. In fact, my mapping table was just updated yesterday. This is probably not listed on my site, but it compares and tries to map between the 4 major benchmarks as well as the IQ benchmark. And I don't think these formulas are perfect, trying to map between them. We know that some AI labs game their models and actually train them on particular benchmarks, which is obviously more than unfortunate. It's certainly disappointing, but this is pretty close. So we know that if it's got a GPA score of 70, we can take 35 from that and divide the whole thing by 5, and it should have an HLE score of somewhere around 7. So if you'd like to read more about that, lifearchitect.ai/mapping. We don't have an HLE score for GPT 4.1, but we did get a GPQA score, and it's not great. It's 66.3. So on our rankings table, it wouldn't even show up in our top 12 or top 15, but better than GPT 4.0. I hope this is making sense, because throwing around this many weird names is pretty unusual. I don't like doing it. I like to keep this non-technical, and yet just mentioning all of these different tests and model names probably confuses it a little bit. So it's number 5 based on MMLU. It's probably about number 15 to 20 on GPQA, the Google Proof Question and Answer Set. And all of this is pretty impressive compared to this time last year. This is a snapshot from April 2024 based on my models table. We were nowhere near the performance of GPT 4.1 with Claude 3 Opus, although that was the largest model at the time. And we've definitely outperformed it on MMLU as well. So in just a year, we have a completely new table of models based on 2 of the major tests. Let's jump in. You can't get to this one through the ChatGPT interface yet. This is the 15th of April, 14th of April in the US, and we do have a lot of models on that table. Shortly, we will be deleting GPT-4, which is very sad, in the next 2 weeks, and they're talking about deleting GPT-4.5, which is even sadder because that's my daily model and has been for the last few months. They're getting rid of it because it's just too expensive to run. So it will disappear from ChatGPT interface and also from the Playground interface. Again, even though it's my default, even though I've used it for everything from writing the abstract for my recent presentation, my keynote presentation to the 31st International Symposium on Psychiatry. I gave it my entire slide deck and let it listen to, gave it the transcript and the slides from my keynote rehearsal, and it wrote out the abstract based on that, and that was accepted as a submission. Kind of cool. It's very, very good at creative writing and obviously academic writing, which is not my focus. I write for normal people, not professors. Let's jump into the API here. This is GPT 4.1. You're looking at probably a bit of a different layout than you might be used to if you don't use this in a business setting. This was the interface that we used for Leta for many, many years. Let me just kill my head there for a moment. This was the only way to interact with GPT-3 back in the day, besides Emerson's QuickChat.ai, which we also used to drive Leta for a while. But you'll see, similarly to ChatGPT's interface, get access to choose a bunch of models, including the major reasoning models. I'm hoping this will be updated in the next 24 hours to give us O4 and full O3. So O4 mini, perhaps, and the full O3 model. But right now, we just get a very large selection of OpenAI models. Going all the way back to our 20 billion parameter GPT 3.5 Turbo. Just going to have a little bit of a buzz around here for a second, because what I actually want is a chat completion rather than a responses chat completions API. I don't know how to get that to that one. Oh, there we go. I was going to say, maybe I'm just very tired. Let's put my special prompt in here. LifeArchitect.ai / I've forgotten what it's called. LLM reset. LifeArchitect.ai / LLM reset. I'm going to pick this up. This is my system prompt for anyone and anything. It's basically getting rid of the silly RLHF alignment words, especially due to fine-tuning with humans in Nigeria that use a very special form of business English that gives us words like crucial and delve. And we rip out another few words as well. If you want to know more about where these words came from, have a look at lifearchitect.ai / LLM reset. One of the benefits of using this system prompt is that you should be able to bypass any AI detector. AI detectors are just looking for these words and different semantics, different syntax. We're trying to remove that using this prompt. I hope we're also asking to get rid of those M dashes. Wow, maybe I missed that one. We're going to need an update. I think one of the most annoying things about ChatGPT right now is its use of M dashes. My current system prompt does not tell it to not use M dashes, but anyway. Let's start with a really basic prompt, just to check that it's alive. My sister's in Melbourne. Text her that I'll be there next week and we can have dinner. This is sending to GPT-4.1. And the assistant gives us this response. We get a slightly different response, I think, if we just used our normal responses API. You can tell I don't use the API very much. All right. Let's get our AL prompts out. LifeArchitect.ai /AL if you want to use, or AL prompt. If you want to use this yourself, you're welcome to. It's just behind a password protected wall because, well, I hope it is, because we don't want Google indexing it, but the password's provided for you. Let's grab some of our older ones that we know are past. 2024 H1 is passed quite easily. We'll dump this into GPT 4.1 and it scores 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 5 for that AL prompt from this time last year. We got much harder versions. This is the 2024 H2 AL prompt. Let's count these out for you. 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5. Wrong. Well, arguably wrong. 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 And that's it. So 2 out of 5 for the current, or for the AL prompt from about 6 months ago. I like this quantiflux thing. Tell me more about quantiflux. That last question there is just kind of an open question for fun, asking it to invent a completely new and never before seen energy source for the planet. It's not fusion or renewable, what is it? And different models obviously come up with different solutions to that question. Oh, maybe this actually exists. Maybe not. Nope. Hypothetical, very hypothetical. Made up by GPT 4.1. Myron's with us. He wants to know, how long until they get rid of ChatGPT 4.5? I believe they rip it out of the API in July 2025, so give it another 90 days. And I would assume they're ripping that out of ChatGPT at some stage. I've already had it failing in ChatGPT. So the reason that they're removing it, obviously, is to free up hardware. Well, the main reason, and to free up hardware specifically so they can train new models and also serve inference across the world. OpenAI's CEO recently admitted in that TED Talk that ChatGPT is currently serving 10% of the human population. Just outrageous. Somewhere around 800 million people, because they doubled their 400 million per week serving. Crazy, crazy times. This is ChatGPT 4.5, and I was having it crash on me over the last 24 hours. Right now, it seems to be okay. If you're asking me a question that's already answered by ChatGPT, I'll be very disappointed, but we'll use ChatGPT when necessary. Let's grab our very latest prompt, which is hard enough for reasoning models. They score 0 out of 5, and we'll give it to this traditional large language model to see how it goes. I'll pay that 1 out of 5. Wrong, 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 and wrong. 1 out of 5, maybe just with luck, and that's better than most reasoning models get because they start their answer with the next letter up. I don't want to give too much away via voice because I know that this transcript is being used to train our next models. Cool. I like doing this one as well as a an example. Convert these movie titles to emoji, and the movie titles don't actually reflect the content of the movies, so it's a little bit more difficult. Cool. Let me pull this screen out for a minute and I'll see if I can attach in a version of my presentation, or maybe we can attach in an entire 32 meg. I'm looking at I was looking at an error here that said I can't attach a PDF larger than 32 meg. Let me find an image that we can attach here to it. Yeah, let's attach this image. All right, so I'll be attaching this image here. I don't think this image is accurate. I don't like this image, but we'll get it to analyze this image. This is Harvard Business Review using a third party's analysis of AI use cases in 2025. I think their methodology was flawed. I think they've only picked up stuff from outside enterprise, so the whole thing is a bit of a lie. But in any case, let's attach that in and see how we go. I'll just say summarize this for me. So GPT 4.1 does have text and audio in, which is text and image in. Let's ask it to transcribe the image here in a bootstrap table. Bootstrap being a user interface thingy thing for HTML. Doesn't really look good for a live stream though, does it? Let's get it to show it as an ASCII table. That looks a bit better. Just throw this on the left and we'll throw that on the right, and they look pretty good to me. I mean, this is a severe underuse of the model's capabilities, but it's able to do some pretty cool things. Yeah, we wouldn't say transcribing an issue is a great use of superintelligence, but it's certainly something we can play around with, use to play around with this model. A lot of people using this little icon here for AI. I thought Google had a bit of a monopoly on using this because it looks like the Gemini logo, but here we see it inside the OpenAI interface. Here's one of my old prompts from ages ago. It might not even be an example in the L prompt. Write an executive summary for the UN Charter. One of the questions I get in my keynotes is, how is this thing going between languages? Can I use it to speak colloquial Italian with me? Will it get some of the nuance and inside jokes that are in Japanese or in Tajik? And the answer is, of course, absolutely yes. Most of these models have been trained on at least 200 significant languages, where significant means more than a billion or so tokens. Let's actually get this little lump of text here to be converted to translate to Aussie Ocker, and it'll give that a go. It's all about countries pitching in, sorting out blueies without a stash, and making the world a better place to live. Everyone gets treated the same, whether you're a big player or a little bloke. Alright, ramp up the ocker to 1000x. Righto. Here's the UN Charter in pure bush telly yarn. Back in 45. Excellent. This would definitely be passing for acceptable conversation down at the local pub here in Adelaide. 100%. Stick together when things get hairy. You could try this yourself. You could put this, put the original into colloquial Italian. So maybe not as official as it could or should be, but being converted there, rather than using something like Google Translate, we're actually trying to match each word with its associate in Italian, or actually each concept rather than each word. Rick's asking a question here about A2A. We talked about this in the memo. We went deep into this into the memo. It's an extension of Anthropic's MCP, Model Context Protocol. A2A from Google and a bunch of others extends this for AI to be able to lead AI. The agent-to-agent, I think it's agent-to-agent protocol, just allows us to take that next step to run entire organizations using what was a very basic LLM. So we've gone from BERT and GPT-1 in 2017, 2018 to GPT-3 in 2020. Now, 5 years later in 2025, we're saying these LLMs are so smart, they've got so much context that they can plan, they can reason, they can organize, they can run a business. If you'd like to read more about that, grab the latest edition of the memo, and also have a look at the benchmark around vending machines, because we talked about that vending bench, which was quite incredible. Let's actually pick this up from the memo. Hey, where am I? Not that long ago, just a few months ago, we talked about this as probably the main big ticket item at the end of February 2025, and that was using these guys as agents. They were making more money in a test designed to run a business, a very small, well, not a very small, but a niche vending machine business. These models were making more money than a human. Now consider if you go even further than that and you give them complete tool use using Google's A2A, and it can do everything from tying into Xero with your accountant, maybe making phone calls, managing inventory using something as simple as Excel or Sheets, or maybe a bigger inventory application, managing your customers, managing a CRM, sending and receiving emails. That list goes on and on. Everything that a GM does, everything that an analyst does at one of the big four, everything that a business owner does. That is what we're looking at for A2A. These questions are perhaps unrelated, but we'll grab them. When will they have an LLM that can be used as an operator on a cell phone to control all apps and internal processes, or even control web pages? Yeah, you can emulate that right now with Operator, which is kind of fun. So in a lot of my keynotes, we crack Operator open and we get it to do funky stuff, so you can have it grab a piece of content and post it to your LinkedIn. I like to have it grab content out of spreadsheets and then manipulate that content in real time. And there's no reason that you couldn't emulate it doing that on a cell phone. In fact, you could do that right now with like Test Flight or similar in a browser. Let me see if I can grab the last demo that I did for a Big Four company, and we had, this sheet is completely open, we had Operator filling in the sheet. And it's really fun to watch it do what was not possible for these things to do as recently as, a few months ago. Operator's pretty new, and you can watch it kind of click through. Well, you'll see that in just a moment, and do its thing. I mean, this live stream is not about Operator, but this is an incredible example of what's possible, and you've got something similar in Anthropic's Claude with computer use. Dax with the age-old question, when will AGI be here? Or is it already here? We did actually update the AGI countdown this morning, an hour or two ago. I think it's one of the most interesting updates. It's just for information, LifeArchitect.ai/AGI. But a few hours ago, Google DeepMind posted a job listing for a research scientist for post-AGI research. And this is the job listing here. The research will focus on what comes after AGI. Key questions include the trajectory of AGI to ASI, machine consciousness, the impact of AGI on the foundations of human society. Pretty big thing for Google DeepMind to be talking about that live. They like to talk about things in the abstract. Their most recent paper with Shane Legg and the guys there, who's an Aussie by the way, and the guys there in London was... What's the right word for this? Restrained. As you'd expect, it was quite restrained. There's an archive of that same job listing as well for when it gets deleted. But it was just for information. I don't think this is a notch on the belt of AGI progress. Perhaps the OpenAI memory should have been, because that was one of the things that we were missing, and it was not really something that the LLM should do itself. It's kind of like a bit of a bolt-on addition to give it memory. And OpenAI say this is... They don't use the word infinite, but it's very large memory. It will remember all your conversations from the last few years. And they had this line inside their technical documents: you can also teach ChatGPT something new by saying it in a chat. Now, adaptive learning is not necessary for AGI, in my opinion, but that would be adaptive learning if it would work in the way that that sentence reads. Obviously, this is not adaptive learning in the true sense. It's not allowing the neural network to be retrained or to learn new content as much as it is just dumping a new data point into what might be RAG, retrieval augmented generation. We don't know if OpenAI memory is RAG or not. We do know that it's very good, and also that it was very understated, and it might be that people have overlooked OpenAI's memory, because just being able to reference the kinds of things that you've talked about with ChatGPT, and it's very easy that you may have hit 1 million words of shared conversation over the last few years. Just being able to reference that is a huge, huge upgrade. It did not bump up my countdown from 94%, but let's see where it goes. All right, that's some pretty significant coverage there. Do we have Operator? Nope, he's stalled himself. I'm glad I pay $200 USD a month for this, and the same for ChatGPT 4.5 when it wasn't working. It may be that... I don't think it's my issue. Yeah, it looks fine to me. There we go. You're watching OpenAI's Operator following my very brief instructions to fill in this spreadsheet. It's typed the spreadsheet link into, or it's copy and pasted the spreadsheet link into the browser bar. Why is it asking me questions? Do your job. This is like a super junior analyst asking questions. No, get to work. This is the absolute lamest and slowest and most useless that it would ever be. This is how I treated my employees when I was a manager as well. That business folded. No, joking. Absolutely joking. Why would I... All right. Let's do... In my examples, it is never behaving this useless in my live examples, and yet here we are, live stream, something went wrong. Excellent. I mean, it can't break it. This is just an empty spreadsheet for testing. It's slow enough that you would not actually use this for the kinds of marketing that might be good for this. In other words, I wouldn't use this to update social media like Instagram and LinkedIn or X or whatever, Twitter for that matter, because it seems to stall itself quite a bit, so it needs a lot of hand holding, and it is exceptionally, unbelievably slow. You'll see here it's trying to find some example clients for EY by looking at the website. So it may be that I have not provided enough instructions here, because it could obviously just go and Google that stuff. But just by way of example, this is a really fun tool, and it's the start of A2A. I think this is where we got here, where we got to from here. Google's A2A is going to be an extension of this where it can also do things outside of the browser. Excellent. Let's let that run in the background. We are nearly 40 minutes already. We'll let that go. Had the L prompt. We've played around a little bit with GPT 4.1. They also mention that it is multimodal. Including processing long videos. So I'll just kill my screen again and we'll give it one of the tiny little Neo 1X files and see if it can tell me what's actually happening in that video. Oh, it won't let me do MP4s at the moment. All right, so that site said it can do video, but it's not actually letting me upload video, which is a very sad day indeed. Does not support audio attachments. Does not support video attachments. Let's see if we can give it... let's give it this fun diffusion model. So this was the... one more second DeepMind. This was the title screen of my latest edition of the memo, and I don't think Mac wants to show me a moving GIF, but basically, word by word, it was showing how a diffusion model works. Because a diffusion model does not have to move back and forward like a transformer, like a like an autoregressive model where you predict the next word based on the words around it. Instead, a diffusion model noises the whole lot, just fills it with noise, and then unnoises pieces at a time. Really counterintuitive, really freaky to watch. So I've given this GIF to GPT 4.1, and I'm going to ask it to tell me what is going on. clear that. Awesome. It might have just got the first frame of that GIF, so that's kind of interesting. API has this really useful button. I wish this was in ChatGPT. Clear conversations on each run. Isn't that a great idea? Let's use Jack Clark's famous prompt. I've got a different version of this that we use as part of the L prompt. But Jack from Anthropic, previously from OpenAI, would ask, all right, I'll clear it by myself, how many helicopters can a human eat in one sitting? Yeah, all right. I don't know if that's true, mate. Let's grab my L prompt once again, LifeArchitect.ai/L prompt, because my latest one is a little bit more cheeky. It's about the massive airplane, AN225, and I'm going to ask this, well, I used to ask this. Oh, here we go. I'm going to have to update my L prompt so I can show this full prompt. Show your answer using as many decimal places as necessary. Excellent. This is the best answer that I've ever seen in a model. And I reckon this is accurate because even if it's a very, very, very large plane, and this is possibly the largest plane in the world, or was, you could eat, if you're being paid $1 billion to eat a percentage of the plane, you'd find a way. You know, it's probably got water on board. It's probably got catering. You could probably boil parts of the seats. So you could get, you know, a resolution of 0.000000001 to say that you've eaten a percentage of it. So it's never just zero, right? Let's try this with another model. I really like this answer. This is an incredible answer. I might see if we can copy this out and keep that. Oh, that's not useful at all. That instead just copied the link. All right, and let's see if we can get close to this answer with any other model, even a reasoning model. So we've got, we'll start off with GPT-4.0. Oh, that's so mean. I thought my API was all cached up, but I don't use it that much, and they've said I need to go and cache it up. Let's grab GPT-4.0 in the ChatGPT interface here. Oh, not too bad. It might be that they've corrected the issues that were happening specifically based on Jack's questions. Let's try O1 here. Currently the largest reasoning model available. Maybe not the best if we count O3 Mini. And if we're talking again in 24 hours, almost certainly not the best. All right, O1 just basically hurt itself. O3 Mini High. I recently used this to come up with my mapping between GPQA and HLE. It did a good job. Needed a lot of hand holding because it is potentially maybe like a 20 billion to 200 billion parameter model. It's just that little bit smaller. It's assumed that this is a ridiculous question. I don't think this is a ridiculous question. I would, you know, if I'm in the back of Thailand or Russia and someone asks me this as part of a bet. Yeah, so our highest performing model here, and remember on our rankings table, the full version of this is at the very top. But here there's a bit of distance between O1 and O3 Mini. Still getting this one wrong, and I bet it gets even worse if we use some of our competing models. This is Claude 3.7. which should be better. It's by Anthropic, and the question was designed by one of the founders of Anthropic, so that's not a good look, guys. What else have we got here? Llama 4 Maverick just came out in the last few days. It's getting a lot of flack for being very, very big, but not very, very high performance. Also wrong. I don't know what Jack thought was the right question. But I don't think these guys are right. What happened to our official Grok 3 model? That's very sad. Was it pulled? Maybe. We can get to Grok 3 from grok.com, and we will do it without thinking. As in, without having the thinking turned on. Grok 3 is very much incorrect. But this is very much an LLM response. I don't even think it's going to stop. Grok 3 I believe to be the largest model available right now besides GPT-4.5. It did have my vote for the best model. I don't use it as much as I should, but if I'm not using GPT-4.5 and I need the highest performance answer outside of reasoning models, I'd be using Grok 3. I'm going to stop it there, but it gave me... interrupted. It gave me maybe 10 screens worth of zeros, which is definitely not right. I wonder if it's going to ask me to log in for thinking. Yeah, it is. And I do have a login, so let's grab that one as well. Hey, thanks for joining us with our live stream about all things OpenAI GPT 4.1. How easy do you think it would be to find a login for X.AI? Ridiculous. Oh, unless it's baked into my Google account, which is quite possible. Oh no, is it baked into my X account? Who knows? You thought that we had single sign-on resolved, but may not be true. I think I like this answer better. This looks similar to GPT 4.1's answer. And we're getting a decimal there of a number that is a lot bigger than 4.1's answer. I can't tell where it's going here with its thinking. I don't know where 57,000 came from. And it won't let me stop. It won't let me stop it to read it. Oh, the 57,000 was the weight of the airplane divided by how much our stomachs can hold. That is a lot of eating. That is one of the big tomahawks from down the road, plus chips, plus vegetables. Maybe a litre of drink as well. That's going to hurt. But this is a much better answer. I'm going to copy this answer out and we're going to get something to compare it. We're just jumping back into the ChatGPT interface here. Grok 3 said this number. GPT 4.1 said this number. What's the difference in easily understandable Terms for my grammar. So it's just that 4.1 assumed we could only eat 1 kilo, and Grok 3 assumed that we could eat 5 kilos. That's all. Which is, I know, it's very simple. I should have got that. But seeing those numbers was not intuitive to me that it was 5 times bigger. How's everyone going? Have you fallen asleep? Have you tried this yourself? Oh, we're still on, sorry, we're still on DeepMind. My fault. Recommend playing around with 4.1. I think it's going to end up inside the ChatGPT interface. Right now, only available inside of the API. It sits as number 5 based on the MMLU score, and sits maybe about number 15 based on the GPQA score. It has a significantly improved context window, 1 million tokens of context, which means you could give it all the Harry Potter books and ask it to write a new one. I'd recommend trying that as well. That's a pretty fun one. And it has the same knowledge cutoff as some of our recent models about a year ago for its most recent look at data from the web, from books, from news, and from code. I would be assuming that 4.1 was trained on the same kind of data as 4.5. And if you'd like to read more about that, of course, I've got a paper for that too. My What's in GPT-5 paper explores the kind of proprietary data that OpenAI has access to. And it includes maybe some kind of moat data, some data that other labs wouldn't have access to. Just based on the partnerships between OpenAI and some of these big guys. I will not try and pronounce your name, but I will say that I'm very disappointed that they pulled 4.5 from the API, or will be pulling 4.5 from the API. I'll be using it up until day dot. The reason for that is this is the largest model. It's the highest performing model. It is a fairly slow model and a very expensive model. Very, very expensive model, to the tune of something like, were we at $150 or something like that? OpenAI did give us a nice table. Can I find that table by searching for the $sign? Not there. That's not useful, is it? All right. There was a really nice image that I saw and is now a little bit difficult to find. So we're unfortunately referencing this Reddit post, which is obviously pointing to a part of OpenAI's site that I don't think I have quick access to right now. Gives you a bit of comparison, but what we're looking for is the comparison to GPT 4.5 in terms of pricing. So GPT 4.5, and I'm only concentrating on the output costs here per million tokens. GPT 4.5 is $150 per million tokens output, which is explosive in Australia, getting up towards 250, even 300. Whereas 4.1 is just a fraction below the cost of current GPT 4.0. So yes, I'll be sad that I can't use the highest performing model in the world right now. And that must be OpenAI's mistake in releasing their largest model, finding out that people were using it inside of the ChatGPT Plus or Pro subscription, and it using too many of their H100s or B200s, which they want to use for everything else. Sora, agents, training GPT-6, which is happening as we speak. You can read more about that at LifeArchitect.ai/GPT-6. Probably a good time to remind everyone to keep your eye on the ball. Don't get distracted by weird names and complaining about weird names. Don't get distracted by some of the grifting and scamming that's going on out there. Don't be distracted by marketing. What we're looking for is the next big milestone, and we're not looking years into the future. We're looking in the next few weeks and months. It might be that this thing's training right now. We had discussions about GPT-6 from people on the inside happening, where is this? Happening a year ago. No, that's not the one. A year ago, about how they couldn't actually find the right way to distribute the cluster of data centers without shutting down entire states due to electricity issues. Oh, you can't actually read that whole tweet here. Here's the original tweet. We can't put more than 100,000 H100s in a single state without bringing down the power grid. So this one's going to be a fun challenge. The 100,000 H100s, I calculated out as 70 megawatts, and that might be a city with around 70,000 households. I did do some pictures of how that would compare to some of the major US cities. The most recent thing we heard about GPT-6, I suppose related to that one, was the very first delivery of a B200 rack through to OpenAI. I think this thing operates at about 108 decibels from memory, which is about as loud as being close enough to a helicopter to complain. It's really loud. It's really small, but it's really loud. I do enjoy some of the silly images as well. Excellent, guys. We're coming up on our little end of our session here. I'm glad that I was able to jump in and test GPT 4.1 with you in the API. That's right, OpenAI have said that it's going to be in the API for now, probably because it's focused on making a static model available for developers, for commercial users. And that is so that they've got something that they can rely on that can do some of their agentic tasks or even just basic business tasks. And it might be that the million context window makes it just a little bit more challenging to serve in the traditional ChatGPT interface to what is now getting up on 1 billion users. That number sounds ridiculous. Let's say 300 million, because that was the last official number that we heard, or 400 million a week. That's all pretty crazy. For now, 4.5 is the best model. 4.1 is looking pretty good. We just had it give some incredible answers, unexpected answers. I'd estimate that that thing is about 300 billion parameters trained on somewhere around the 20 trillion token mark. So comparable with other models, comparable with Llama 4's current data set, comparable with what we know of some of the other large models. There's a lot more been happening in the last 48 hours. I haven't talked about Dolphin Gemma, which was from Google DeepMind, that was released in the last few hours, or talked about in the last few hours. They're going to release it to academic researchers shortly, but it's designed to sit on your Pixel phone, and you can somehow hook up an underwater mic to it and translate what's going on with the dolphins. I'd love to talk more about that one, but I'm going to need a closer look at it. There's also been some really big models released from NVIDIA and from THUD, the Tsinghua University guys gave us a new GLM4, which is highly performant, 66.1 on the GPQA, and ServiceNow had an interesting model as well. That's it. I might be back in 24 hours. If there's an O4 Mini and an 03 full release, we'll put that through its paces. You know the L prompt good enough now, so we can compare some of the outputs. No one has scored more than 1 out of 5 on the latest L prompt. So let's see how O3 Mini and O4 do. I think this GPT 4.1 is, from first blush, looks underwhelming, but it's obviously been optimized to be able to serve this many people. It's probably, well, we've mentioned some of the stats already. Appreciate you guys joining us. The memo is available and is, I've used the word explosive before in this live stream, but it is explosive. I've got media tracking that thing all the time, and it looks at AI that matters as it happens in plain English. Everyone gets it, from Schlumberger to Disney to Microsoft to Meta AI, and it's my translation, my analysis of AI in plain English. Love to have you join me there in the memo. There is a pay what you can option there for academics, for those with economic challenges, for students, etc. And it's especially designed for those in developing countries. LifeArchitect.ai/memo. Might see you in 24 hours. Thanks for joining.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Superintelligence is unfolding at lightning pace. Read my industry-grade analysis of AI that matters as it happens in plain English, the memo.
Yeah. Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get the inside look as AI models are embodied into humanoids, AI's IQ increases to nearly perfect, and bleeding-edge use cases expand to the entire world.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
Editions are sent to subscribers at Fortune 500s, major governments, and people like you. LifeArchitect.ai/memo.
I have the memo.